paid good money to see this movie. When they go out to a theater, they want cold sodas, hot popcorn, and no monsters in the projection booth.
Everyone pretend podcasting isn't boring.
Turn it off. Turn it off.
When you say you felt different, how did different feel to you?
Not belonging. I very much wished not to be noticed and to be left alone.
She was our most famous poet for a long time, and yet completely elusive.
I think she was always a beatnik.
Mystic. She's radical.
It was shocking. I was a girl in Ohio, and I wanted to write poems. Unheard of.
She was an independent woman who wrote the poetry she wanted to write, who loved who she wanted to love.
Molly was this charismatic, stylish, sophisticated person.
We did not have much income. We had love and work and play.
Mary's career was what this couple was about.
The winners of the 1984 Pulitzer Prizes were announced today.
Mary Oliver won the National Book Award for Poetry.
Thank you.
You could not contain her any more than you could contain the season.
I could sit for 2 hours and look at the clouds and be very silent.
Everybody thinks Mary was this little earth mother.
And that certainly wasn't the life that she led.
That was one of my frustrations with Mary's poems. She was just presenting herself in the light. What is the storm?
One of the things about traumatic experiences is that you have to go in earnestly to look at it.
Mary spent some time feeling a little unmoored.
You could hear the truck coming down the road. You know, it was...
In that way, Mary is also a good cautionary tale.
Children forget. They don't know why they have nightmares all the time.
And then you started this new book, What Can I Say That I Have Not Said Before?
Mary was very clear that it wasn't going to define her.
I got saved by poetry, and I got saved by the beauty of the world.
Hey folks, welcome to a special episode of The Projection Booth. I'm your host, Mike White. On this episode, I am talking with Sasha Waters Freyer all about her new documentary, Mary Oliver, Saved by the Beauty of the World. It is a documentary about the poet Mary Oliver, her influence and influences, her life, and the lives of those around her. I had a wonderful time talking with Sasha. I hope that you have just even a fraction of the fun that I had talking with her by listening to this interview. Please enjoy. Can you kind of tell me how you got involved in filmmaking?
It was a really long time ago. So I studied photography as an undergrad. I was really influenced by a photographer named Gary Winogrand. The late 80s, when I was in college, I later went on to make a documentary about him. But I found after a few years of doing photography that I was also interested in writing and stories and storytelling. So I was naturally gravitated toward documentary film. The first filmmaker who I ever worked for is a brilliant, amazing documentarian named Barbara Kopple. I met her when I was waiting tables, right after she had finished the movie American Dream, which went on to win the Oscar. I think it's a 91 film and it won in 92. But I went on to work for her. What's interesting is that I came to film through documentary, but I actually picked up a 16 millimeter camera and started making more experimental personal films. And so now, even though I've made a few documentaries, I think of myself more as an artist who's stumbled into documentary than I do a documentary filmmaker. So I straddle these different worlds of personal avant-garde film that might screen in a gallery or a film festival, and then documentary that's a little more mainstream and a little more intended for a broad audience.
What were some of your early films like?
I made an environmental film that I started in the late 90s. It actually started as my graduate student thesis film, and then it went on from there. It was broadcast on public television in 2003, and it was a sort of an activist social justice environmental film called Raising Appalachia. It was the first documentary or feature documentary about mountaintop removal mining. And this is at a time, I think, in the early 2000s where it was before the big Al Gore environmental film came out. So this environmental documentary was still emergent. It was on national public television on this great series called Independent Lens. So there was some amount of attention to it. But I also found that I think activist documentary has really changed a lot since that time, because I think the amount of time it takes to make a film is so long and issues develop and our news cycle happens so quickly now that I'm glad I made it when I did, but I make different kinds of films now, even though I really admire activist documentary or cinema verite or direct cinema documentary where it's just all about being immersed in the story as it's unfolding in the moment. I think I was drawn to documentary by those kinds of films, but the kind of films I make are much more nowadays, and have been for a long time, much more archivally and research-based.
Tell me about your choosing of subjects, or do your subjects kind of choose you?
In the case of the documentary that I made before Mary Oliver, which was now already completed 8 years ago in 2018, that was a film about a photographer named Gary Winogrand. And he was someone who, like I mentioned, was a really big influence on me as a young photographer when I was in college studying photography, but who I'd forgotten about until around 2013. There was this renewed attention to his work because he had a brand new retrospective at San Francisco Museum of Modern Art. He traveled to New York, he traveled to Washington, D.C. There was new posthumous work that was included in these shows. And I was reminded of just how significant he was, not only to me personally, but just as an artist in the late 20th century, how influential he was. And he was finally getting this renewed attention. And so I thought to myself, gosh, I wish someone would make a film about him, or why isn't there a film about him? I want to learn more. And because there wasn't, I had the opportunity to reach out to his estate and his gallery and get to make that film. And so I think sometimes it is this question of wanting to spend more time with someone who I admire and just research their life, their ideas, their work. And that's really a big impetus for me.
Have you ever spent time researching something for it to just never come to fruition?
I spent a lot of time researching films that haven't come to fruition. I mean, one of the ways that the Mary Oliver film started was I had been in development on a film about this wonderful 20th century San Francisco-based sculptor and public artist named Ruth Asawa, someone who, again, was neglected in some ways, neglected outside of the Bay Area in her lifetime, who has now become more ascendant through her gallery representation in New York, through big retrospectives that are happening. She's been deceased now for over a decade. There had been a new book about her, a little renewed attention, and her life story and also her work was fascinating to me. She was a great artist, but she also was a mom. She had 6 kids, and she had her moment in the Bay Area. She was in some shows in New York, but again, was neglected by the critical establishment. So I was really interested in her story. And we worked for a long time on developing that film. It fell through for various reasons, and maybe someday it will come back. I would love to make that Ruth Asawa film. I would love for somebody else to make the Ruth Asawa film. But sure, because that film fell through, it then opened up this opportunity to work with American masters instead of on Ruth Asawa on the Mary Oliver project.
How familiar with Mary Oliver were you before you started the project?
I was very familiar with her work. I'm a big fan of poetry. Some of my short experimental films we can consciously and explicitly engage with poetry, either in their titles, like I have a film that's titled after a line from an Emily Dickinson poem, or sometimes I'll use text in my films drawn from poetry. So I'm thinking about that relationship between poetry, which I just love to read, and the visual And so I knew Mary Oliver's work and was really galvanized by the opportunity to think about the work and her life story and consider how to visualize it, which was a challenge.
I'm curious how you decided to approach this film, because you could have come at it with so many different angles.
First, I'll say we wanted to focus our interviews first and foremost on people who knew Mary personally. So her biographer, her friends of many years like John Waters or Maria Shriver, younger poets who she influenced like David Kaplinger or Fred Gasper. And then there were other people who were influenced by her or could comment on her work who maybe didn't know her personally. That was important to get the spirit of those personal stories that make a person come to life who's no longer with us. Then, of course, the poems themselves, but also having access to her personal archives. Her archive is now in the Library of Congress, but I was able to go through between 30 and 40 boxes before they were sent to the Library of Congress. So that was her fan mail, boxes and boxes of her correspondence with friends, with publishers, with magazine editors, her photo albums, her notebooks. She wasn't really a diary keeper, but she did have notebooks that had notes and lists of birds, her calendars with her appointments written in them. That kind of thing is always important to have, sort of like visual texture for any visually driven documentary. But it also just gave us some insight into her day-to-day life. So I think going through that, even in advance, going through her archives, even in advance of the interviews, doing that kind of research helped us to focus on what kinds of things we wanted to talk to people about.
Speaking of archives, when it comes to the footage of her, was she in the public eye very much?
No, there's very little footage of her in the film. It's not like there's all this other footage out there and we just decided not to use it. There's just, she really did not like to be recorded. Often she would give readings and she would allow them to record audio only, but it was just for City Arts and Lectures in San Francisco, for example, she read there 4 times and they recorded audio, but they were never allowed to release it or put it on their website. We got permission from them and also from her estate so we could use it in the film. And that's how that worked in terms of getting access to the archival material, but really very little video. And so we're so lucky and grateful that what video does exist, we were able to preserve and use some in the film.
For me, filmmaking is so about solving problems. And that seems like a problem that was probably in lesser hands would have been insurmountable. I want to make a documentary about a person who's not on camera very much. So how do you decide to go around that?
One thing we did was once we realized we actually really had some wonderful material with her voice, we centered her voice. And so you see a lot of photographs of her or of the environment that she lived in. I went to Provincetown 6 or 7 times to film. So there's a lot of footage from Provincetown. I went to Ohio, where she spent her early years and filmed a lot there. So this sense of her voice driving the story, not so much in this, again, like not so much in a diaristic way because we don't have her diaries, but anytime we have her telling stories with interviews, or when she would give a reading, after a reading of, let's say, 45 minutes of poetry, there might be 30 minutes of Q&A with an audience. So there was a lot to draw from there. And so that, you hear her voice really throughout the film, and that was so crucial to letting us into this sense of who Mary is and inviting, a couple of people in the film talk about how Mary's poetry, Mary invites you to be her through the poem, to see the world through her eyes. And that's what we wanted the film to do as well. But the film wants you to think about yourself as if you get to live Mary's life. And you're inspired to maybe live a little more like Mary after you've seen the film.
What are some of the other challenges that you had to solve?
The biggest one actually has to do with audio and video, which is that in 2010, she did this interview with Maria Shriver, where she, for the first time, publicly reveals that she's a survivor of childhood abuse. And this interview appeared in print in O magazine, so we knew about it. It was public. It's critical to her story. She tells this story when she's 75 years old for the first time publicly. It really, I think she tells it because she knows it might help people to hear this, right? Because She does understand her. She has all these fans by this time in her life, and she's revealing something so personal. So we knew it was important to the story, but we just didn't know how we would tell it because it's a print interview and it's a transcript. But then we start to think, okay, so it's a transcript. It must exist somewhere, even though it's from 2010. So we just launched this months-long campaign of trying to get Harpo, which is Oprah Winfrey's media production, trying to get Harpo to find the archive, trying to see if someone at Maria Shriver's media company has a copy of it. We just could not find this audio. And we were getting pretty desperate because, again, we thought it would be so weird if we had an actor read as Mary for this one moment in the film when throughout the rest of the film, it's her real voice. So we didn't know what to do. And then when I did the interview with Maria Shriver, at the end, as we were wrapping, I said to her, listen, I am just desperate to find this audio. Do you have any ideas? And she said, oh, it wasn't just audio, it was video. The guy who took the photographs for the magazine spread, he took video of the whole interview. She was like, I bet he still has it. Don't say that, it's 15 years old. And then my friend who was shooting, it's a friend of mine from college who was our LA cinematographer. He goes, oh, I bet that guy has the footage. I was like, do not get my hopes up. And he did. And it was literally like a documentary miracle. I still don't know what we would have done, but that footage is really critical to the film. It's like this beautiful conversation between Mary and Maria that's very moving when you read it on the page, but it's not like having the video. So that was really important.
I know this kind of came out of the ashes of another project, but when did you start this one in earnest?
I think we first started talking about it in late 2022, and then with the idea that I would go off, meaning me and American Masters, Michael Cantor, the executive producer, and we talked right away about applying for a grant from the National Endowment for the Humanities, the NEH. They're a major funder of this kind of documentary, really crucial and critical, and we hope they survive and keep on funding films like this. But in order to write a grant like that, it's a huge amount of work. A lot of research has to happen in advance. So I spent the first half of 2023 doing that writing and research. We submitted the grant. So it's like you're doing a lot of work, but then there are these kind of downtimes where you're just waiting. So we submitted the grant in summer of 2023 and then didn't find out that we had gotten it until early 2024 and then fully went into production after that.
It's a long process, but just to hear 2024, we're talking 2026. It's like you did a lot of work in that period of time.
Yeah, then it became pretty compressed. And in some ways, I wish now I had a longer schedule. We fully went into production in September 2024. We finished the film in the winter of 2025. So I wish we had more time. But I had a co-editor, and that if I didn't have a co-editor, the movie would not be done even by now. It was critical. She was so important. We just had so much luck and so many wonderful collaborators. The animation team, RoPro, the DPs, my main DP here in Richmond, who was a former student of mine, the archive producers, the composers who came on almost last minute, really, because I had just made total hash of the music and it was a mess, and they saved the film. So we just got really lucky. It was a team effort, as filmmaking always is.
Now, are you teaching at the same time while you're doing this?
So I teach at VCU, School of the Arts, Virginia Commonwealth University in Richmond. I did have some time off during the spring of 2024. I was able to reduce my teaching and take time off from it because that also would have just been impossible. But I was teaching throughout fall of 2024 and then this past spring. So that was a challenge, but also fun because I love to show my students work in progress. And of course, when you do something like that, like I've done things where I've done like a test screening with students and I'm their professor. So they might not want to tell me to my face, boy, I fell asleep during this part, or I was totally confused. But so I'll do the thing where I have them give written feedback. So it's anonymous. And so I find that really helpful. And I hope it's fun for them as well.
That's amazing. You have got your own built-in test audience.
Yes, exactly. And they're young, right? So they can give me that perspective that you might not get from executive producers.
Was that how you handled this one as well? Have them take a look at it?
Oh, yeah, for sure. I showed this film to my son. I'm trying to remember. Yeah, it was definitely last fall. I was teaching an advanced documentary class, and I showed them the rough cut. And it was long. It was a long rough cut. So when they gave me feedback, it was really helpful.
When did you get to see this with a proper audience?
Oh, so that was at the premiere at the True Falls Film Festival. And that was really special because I had never been to True Falls. I had heard about it for a million years. I used to live in Iowa, which is only a couple of hours away, but I'd never been. People rave about this festival with all good reasons. It's an incredible festival. Such a great community, incredible screening venues. We were screening on opening night at the Missouri Theater. And my composer said to me, "Oh my God, you're at the Missouri." And I was like, "Oh, is that good?" I have no idea. I didn't know how big it was, anything. My flight was delayed. And so when I got there, I didn't have time to go to the hotel before my screening. I was on a van. They pick you up because Columbia is 2 hours from St. Louis, where the airport is. I was in a van with a bunch of filmmakers, and I had my luggage, and they were like, "Okay, we're just going to drop Sasha off at the theater because she's got to go and introduce her film." And we're pulling up, and I'm like, "Oh my God, what are all those people doing on the street?" And the other filmmakers in the van just looked at me, and they were like, "That's the line to get into your movie." And I walked in, and it was full. So that was like, wow. And we were there with two of our executive producers, my co-editor, Megan, Claire, one of the composing team, and it was really a very special night. I was over the moon. I couldn't believe we'd made it.
Then did you do a festival circuit after that?
Yes, I did. I didn't get to travel to every festival I would have liked to have gone to, in part because I was teaching. Doing kind of West Coast travel was really a challenge for me. But I have gone to a lot of festivals. I went to Martha's Vineyard. I was just in Provincetown last weekend. So yes, it's been great. And I'm going to New York for the opening at the IFC next weekend. I'll be traveling with it. I'll be screening in Washington, D.C. at the National Gallery, at the Wexner Center. These are all coming up in the fall, but so I'll continue to travel with it.
Did I read that it's going to be on American Masters on PBS?
It will be on American Masters in August. So our festival, our theatrical run is pretty short. It starts July 3rd. It opens in New York, Miami, and Provincetown on July 3rd for week-long runs. Hopefully they'll get extended. And then it goes out after that. The broadcast is on August 25th.
How important is PBS to a documentary filmmaker like yourself?
We couldn't do it without PBS. We couldn't do it without the NEH. It's so important. It's one of the few venues for films like this. Sure, HBO and Netflix show biographical films, but they're different. PBS, it just has a different kind of mandate. Mary Oliver is really popular and has a particular kind of built-in audience, but they also show films. A film like Gary Winogrand. Gary Winogrand is not Mary Oliver. Like, he's a somewhat esoteric artist. Like, photographers know who he is, but that film was on American Masters, and that was huge. Millions of people literally saw it because of that. And I think people also forget Netflix and HBO are glossy and glamorous, but not everybody has them, right? PBS is literally everywhere in America. And so I think that's important too, just finding an audience who might not have Netflix, who turns on their TV and is able to encounter the story of an artist or all other kinds of wonderful content that's on PBS that they might not otherwise see. I think it's really critical, and I hope we continue to support it in this country.
How many things are you working on at the same time? How many different plates are you spinning?
One of the things I'm going to do this summer is work on 2 really short films, 3 or 4 minute films that I've shot, because I shoot a lot myself on 16 millimeter, but that I haven't even had time to think about. So like when I'm really in it on a long film, I can't work on anything else. Before we go into production, there are these sort of ups and downs where I might be doing a lot of research and writing and fundraising, and then I'm kind of sitting around and waiting to see if we're going into production or when we're going into production. That might be a time where I can work on something else or work on something smaller. So certainly, if I'm working on a feature and I'm in production or post-production, there's nothing else. But short films, I might work on something and then set it aside and work on something else. There might be 2 or 3 things happening at once.
Do you know what your next big project is going to be?
It is hard to say right now because I really am thinking about the short films for now. When they take 3 to 5 years to complete, you don't want to rush in. You really want to know that you're committing to something that you can see through to the end.
We talked about where people can see the Mary Oliver film, but where can people see your short films?
Oh, you know what? Most of them are on my website, which is pieshake.com.
Did you say Pie Shake?
Yeah, Pieshake, Pieshake. It's all one word. That's my production company name, which it's been that for a long time. Pie Shake, in case you didn't know, is a very popular dessert. Is it a dessert? I don't know what it is, but it's a slice of pie, ideally fruit pie, but pecan pie works well too, and a scoop of vanilla ice cream thrown into a blender. They serve it at a place called Hamburgen No. 2 in Iowa City, where I lived for a dozen years. And so I named my film company Pie Shake because I love a good pie shake.
I've never heard of a pie shake before, but now it's something that I must.
They're really good.
Wow.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you.
This was so nice talking with you.
Yeah, this was great.
Daddy wanted me to leave it, Indiana in the cold. Said, you know, you really don't need it. Leave the fame for the road. I remember when I was leaving, I was only 6 years old. Oh, how my heart was beating, about ready to explode. One shot honey collected all the dust inside the rusted souls. You should get it right, 'cause you can't control the heart that beats under the bone. Come on, my comeback chameleon, give it up. You've got your life to attend to. Buttercup, you're entertaining the talk that is told through the teeth of the mouths of the millions. Dying to meet ya, little do they know. Mississippi River won't kill you unless you stand too close, my dear. Take it to Louisiana, a long, long way from here. The war's been a long time coming, yes, a long, long war's gonna come. We're standing at the end of a story, at the foot of a palindrome. One shot honey collected all the dust inside the rusted souls. You should get it right, 'cause you can't control the heart that beats under the bone. Come on, my comeback chameleon, give it up. You've got your life to attend to. Buttercup, you're entertaining the talk that is told through the teeth of the mouths of the millions. Dying to meet you,